Mr. Bicang, or Jake, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
You're talking about the benefit of having DOTr as part of the board, and you were making the point that we're looking at connecting the airport through different parts of the cities through these different means of transportation, rail being one of them. When can we see that? What is the status of that project now? Because that's fairly new, right? It's just started, I think, at the tail end of the Duterte administration, and now being continued by the Marcos administration.
Correct. So the good thing about this project is we're past the planning stage. We are at the implementation stage. Most of the contract packages were already awarded. In fact, in the recent website of DOTr, the package one of this Manila-Clark Rail, which is from Manila to Malolos, is more than 60%.
Okay.
And then the Malolos to Clark Airport is almost 50%.
Okay.
So, and in our recent discussion with DOTr under the rail sector headed by Secretary Chavez, is that 2025 is their, in the next 2 years, that's their target completion.
2025, that's pretty soon.
It's pretty soon. So, and in the overall railway plan of the government, they plan to extend this all the way to the north.
Okay.
So they will be bringing more passengers to Clark Airport via this railway project.
I see. Now, in the meantime, I think we were talking about this before, that there are also point-to-point buses that are already operating. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, there are two major buses right now operating point-to-point services for passengers in Metro Manila to bring them directly to the airport. So they have positioned themselves in strategic areas like in Cubao, Trinoma, Pasay, and in NAIA 3. So because if there are international flights in Clark and there are domestic connection flights in Manila, so in 1 hour or so, they can be transported to Metro Manila. So, and they're expanding there in terms of number of buses. In fact, the Genesis group is intention to put up a parking depot near the airport, which is under CIAC land, to make sure that they can accommodate more buses because the demand continues to grow as we speak.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, can I circle back a bit to Lipad, because you were saying that one of the partners of that consortium group is Changi Airport. Was that intentional? Maybe because Singapore is getting a lot of attention for its airport. Besides just being a gateway, it's become in itself a tourist attraction in Singapore. Is that the vision also for Clark?
Yes. In fact, if you would anyone who would visit the Clark Airport, and we really make it sure that even non-passengers can go inside the facility and marvel at the infrastructure and architectural wonder and the design of the facility. We want to make sure that they can have a sense of ownership of the facilities. So, in the terms of reference, when we did bidding for the privatization, we made sure that only the top 20 of the airport operators abroad will be able to participate and operate the airport. And the likes of Singapore, Zurich, who else participated at that time?
Quite a few international
companies. KL, Kuala Lumpur. So, but it's Changi who won. So because they gave the best prize. So with Changi on board, we are pretty much sure that the airport experience that Filipinos do enjoy in Singapore can be replicated and be experienced the same in Clark Airport.
And I think it's also helpful that you were there before under a different role, but now you're president of CIAC. So there's a sense of continuity. We don't have to start from scratch and review what Lipad is trying to do, right? I mean, is that helpful?
Yes, I consider the Clark Airport as my baby among my projects now. I was involved with BGC during the late 90s, the 2000, the Subic-Clark-Tarlac Expressway. But for me, the Clark Airport, I was part of the planning, procurement, design.
You saw it from groundbreaking to
yes.
What are the opportunities in the airport now? Because as I understand it, there's still Am I correct? I mean, opportunities for concessionaires, from other partners, private sector partners. Can you talk about that? What are some of those if people are interested in maybe looking at business opportunities at the airport? What's available?
All right. For the but first though, we would like to give appreciation also and acknowledge the effort of Lipad in bringing in more flights now.
Okay.
Because starting this month, April, Cebu Pacific will be bringing a lot of their flights to Clark. More than, I guess, 22 destinations, 14 local destinations like Cagayan de Oro, General Santos, Palawan, and 8 international flights like Vietnam, Bangkok, and in Japan. So if we bring in more passengers inside Clark, so it creates more opportunities to the areas around the airport.
Right.
And so as I told the people in Clark when we had our first meeting with them, we have to make sure that our lands around the airport, because the first thing that the businesses will see when they get out of the airport are CIAC lands.
Right.
So these are the most prime properties right now inside Clark. So we have to make sure that they are properly prepared in terms of development, utilities, and these are open for opportunities for mixed use, logistics, warehousing, and even tourism-related businesses.
I see.
Yes.
And going back to Lipad, you're saying how it attracted new airlines, additional airlines to fly to Clark. There have been many others who've been doing business there for a long time. Emirates, I think, has been flying there for 6 or 7 years.
7 years, Emirates, Qatar. And recently, less than a week ago, we were, or 2 weeks ago, we were able to participate in the launching of EVA Air. They said the president said
Taiwan.
The way you say it is EVA Air, not EVA Air.
That's a Filipino.
Yes, but we're used to it.
Yeah.
So with that connection flight from Taiwan, it's a good connection flight for the Pacific side, which is the west coast of America. In fact, when the maiden flight arrived from Taiwan to Clark, most of the passengers are OFWs and retirees, balikbayans from US.
Interesting.
So it's a good now connecting flight for the US. And by June, they will bring another legacy carrier from Korea. So Asiana Airlines will come back. So another connectivity for Europe or America.
The question I have about that is that the responsibility of Lipad? Is that or the responsibility of CIAC to talk to these airlines and convince them to fly to Clark, or is it a joint responsibility along with maybe the DOTr?
Yeah, it's a joint responsibility.
Okay.
Because Clark has designated flights under the government rules. So, but in order to expand, they need the government. These are the air talks.
The air agreements,
And Lipad cannot sit on the table to discuss this with other governments.
These are government to government.
It's a government to government.
Treaties,
So our discussion with Lipad and DOTr is to have CIAC to be the one representing the Clark requirements for additional flights. So in the next air talks, we see CIAC participating actively in bringing more flights from other countries towards Clark. And of course, it's Lipad who will benefit on this discussion.
Is it more advantageous for airports to cater to long-haul flights or to short-haul flights? Which one of those routes is more advantageous to airports? Where do you make the more money? I mean, and the question there is, I guess the question is, when do we see the connections to direct connections to North America, to Europe? I mean, do we start seeing that in the future?
Yeah. The good thing about this, before in the master plan, the 2013 master plan, Clark Airport's really just a how do you call it, a low-cost airport terminal.
Right, that's why you see Scoot.
The Air Asia, the local the areas, the two local carriers. But in the updated master plan that we implement, where Lipad is managing now, it's a mix. It's a mix of this legacy and budget airlines. That's why the facility has a how do you call it, a connection, no? So from international, you can directly connect to domestic. You don't need to go out of the airport.
Right.
Okay. And right now, the passenger mix is around 80% international and 20% domestic. So right now, we can say that most of the businesses are derived from international operation. But we need to strengthen the domestic, because as you strengthen domestic routes, it will give now opportunities for tourists to use Clark to go to the beaches of Palawan, Boracay, because we don't see them just stopping in Clark.
Okay.
We see them exploring other good destinations around the country.
So Clark's the entry point to all of the country.
Right, the hub.
All right, we'll be right back with Engineer Bengkang of the Clark International Corporation. We'll be right back. This is Business of Politics.